in order to have a violation of law, you have to have criminal intent, and in this case, corrupt intent. And what that means is that you have to have some desire to do something unlawful. If your attorney is telling you that you have a right to petition Congress, then that completely eliminates any criminal intent.
New today, Donald Trump's lawyer publicly giving his defense on Meet the Press, arguing that his role in the events leading up to January 6th were not criminal. Joining me now is former Democratic Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy of Florida, a former member of the House Select January 6th Committee. Representative, thanks for being with us. And what do you say to that defense, that what Trump did was not criminal? This is about the First Amendment.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be with you, Richard. I thought that that performance was a masterful political spin masquerading as legal defense. Look, I think, we're learning an awful lot based on what the special prosecutor has been able to discover that we didn't even know within the January 6th committee. And when we want to talk about intent, there was a tidbit within the indictment that kind of indicates that the president understood what he was asking of his vice president was not honest. He said, hey, you're too honest. Which means that he knows what he was asking him to do was to do something dishonest, unconstitutional. But this is going to be a case for the special prosecutor to press in the court of law. And I certainly am hopeful that they are going to be able to find a guilty verdict.
Representative, when you go through the latest indictment, you probably are remembering your former work space, focusing on the January 6th committee, as you were part of. What's your perspective here on the role the committee's work played in getting to this moment, and how did Smith build on that?
Well, I think that the January 6th committee really provided the overarching narrative of exactly what happened in the run-up to and on January 6th. We were able to, in the court of public opinion, demonstrate to folks that this wasn't a riot that got out of control on January 6th, but rather it was the culmination of a multi-pronged attempt by the former president to hold on to power, to overturn the outcome of a free and fair election by pressuring state and local officials, as well as pressuring federal officials. And we were able to tell that story in, I think, what was a consumable way, using media and using the words of Republicans, many of whom were our witnesses, provided a lot of testimony that really shed a light on the overall scheme. What I was excited to see in the indictment was that the special prosecutor was able to access testimony from folks that we were not able to. So clearly, Vice President Pence, who took contemporaneous notes, was willing to speak to them and provided some interesting tidbits. I'm excited to learn more.
When you look into the January 6th committee's criminal referrals made to the DOJ, incitement of insurrection notably missing from the charges that have ultimately been brought. What's your reaction to that? Are you satisfied with that decision?
I trust the Department of Justice to identify the charges that they think that they have the evidence to secure a guilty verdict. However, I think for those average Americans who are lied to by people in power, by the former president, and who went to the Capitol on January 6th and then were prosecuted and convicted of seditious conspiracy, of insurrection, they're being held accountable for their acts. And in this country, it shouldn't be that average Americans are held accountable and the elite get away. So I think it's really important that the powerful people who are involved in the overall scheme also are held accountable.
All right. You mentioned those who might be getting away, in your words. The indictment, as you know, describes 6 uncharged co-conspirators at the moment. But as you may have heard at the start of this show, where is Mark Meadows, the former White House chief of staff? What about Jared Kushner? What's your thought?
My hope is that those people are cooperating with the special prosecutor. Mark Meadows, as you know, did not cooperate with the January 6th committee. And my hope is that his absence is because he is somebody who's cooperating. Cassidy Hutchinson, who was his assistant, provided us with a lot of information and a lot of insight into exactly what was happening in the White House in the months before January 6th. And I imagine that Mark would be able to provide even more detail about what was going on and what the former president was thinking as he was moving towards January 6th.
Now, Representative, dozens of House Democrats are pushing for Trump's federal trials to be televised, arguing that this would bolster public acceptance of the outcome. Now, you worked as a national security specialist at the Department of Defense. Would it be more important for national security reasons for Trump's trials to be televised, or would it be more important for it not to be televised?
I think for transparency reasons, it would be good to see it televised, but I leave that decision up to the Department of Justice and to the courts. I do think, though, that I worry about the use of this case to continue to divide Americans and to continue to stoke anger against the institutions and against the individuals who are seeking accountability. We know from our January 6th Select Committee work that our witnesses were contacted by the former president's network, and there was efforts at tampering with witnesses. So I want to see this case prosecuted in the way that will yield the best and justice, basically the outcome that will get justice for the American people.